Let's look at an industry that used to be a pride of Nigeria. Unfortunately, it seems we have lost that status. We're talking about the textile industry. Looking straight now to the cotton and see what's happening there, because by 1970s and 1980s, Nigeria's textile industry was the third largest on the continent. However, the story changed during the dissolution of the Cotton Marketing Board. That happened in 1986. In spite of that, we still have cotton being grown in 36 states of Nigeria. The country produces around 13,000 to 15,000 metric tons annually. However, yields have remained low, ranging from 0.6 to 1.5 tons of seed cotton per hectare. Nigeria now is a net importer of textile. Isn't that bad news? Well, according to NBS, Nigeria's textile imports have skyrocketed by nearly 300% in the last 5 years. The value of imports rose from 182.53 billion in 2020 to 726.18 billion in 2024. This is good FX that would have been used for something more or better. So let's delve into this now with an individual who is very concerned about this and had some good comments for President Bola Tinubu. So we'll find out if he's political or not. We have right here in the studio Ms. Ololade Adeneye. She is the national coordinator of the Nigeria Cotton Society and also the managing director of House of Dorcas Integrated Services. Joins us right here. Ms. Adeneye, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me again.
Good to have you. So when I saw your statement, you know, praising the administration, I was like, is this political? Is this subjective? So maybe you should convince us.
Thank you. It's not political. You know, it has nothing to do with politics. You know, I'm not a politician. I'm only a business person. And apart from that, I advocate for Nigerian economy. I believe so much in the Nigerian economy. You know, I see our potential. And I, for one, I've made up my mind, you know, to put in my own bit to make this work. And when you see what is working, let's say it is working. You know, I believe strongly in building something sustainable. You know, I don't believe in, you know, we want to cultivate today, we want to harvest today, we want to sell today, we want to make money today. It doesn't work like that. You need to build a system. And what this government is doing, they are building systems in place. You know, I understand that the people on the street want to see the result like yesterday. We all want to see that. But you can't get results like yesterday. You know, like they always say that Rome wasn't built in a day. We've come a long way. You know, we're still going to take some steps to get things right. But I can see the structure they're putting in place. I can see the system they're putting in place that will put us in that line where we need to be. So that's why I say that I like what the government is doing. I, for one, as somebody that is in this space, I can see how we can do well, you know, long term.
So I guess one of the reasons you have this perspective is because of the Cotton, Textile and Garment Development Board and the 90 billion naira. But we've had very impressive announcements and policies, you know, before now. Yes. When it comes to the nitty-gritty of it, we lose out on the impact and the implementation.
Yes, you're right. You know, the approval is fantastic. Implementation is another thing. I know that work and meetings are going on to make sure that the implementation is done properly and differently. You know, it's not just the government. You know, the government gives policies, but when it comes to implementation, the private sector has to work with the government. You know, we need to put parameters in place because we are the ones on the field. You know, when you put all the policies in place, we are the one that will work it out. We are the one that, you know, recipient of the policies. So the private sector has to come together with the government. If you noticed, one of the things we told them for the Cotton and the Textile and the Garment Board is it has to be private sector driven. There's no economy in the world that you just leave the government without the private sector coming together, you know, that will work. So with this now, conversations are going on, meetings are going on, both with the government and the private sector, on how to drive this. I'll say that the president of the Cotton Farmers Society of Nigeria, Chief Achimogu, was in a meeting with the SG to the president a couple of weeks ago to discuss on the board as well. So what we're doing is that we're making the government understand that we have been in this space long enough to know what works. The politician cannot say this is how you're going to do it. We can tell you the reason why we're putting the board together. We outline the reason why the board is necessary in the cotton and the textile space. There's several reasons why the board is needed. One of the reasons is standardization, right? I love the interview you had with the DG of NAFDAC just now. She said quite a lot of things that resonate well with me. And she talked about our products being rejected in the global markets. One of the reasons why we have this board is because we don't want our product to be rejected anymore. This cannot be done with the people in politics and government. It can be done by the private sector. So the first step, which is a fantastic step, is the fact that the board has been approved. The 98 billion, it's not 98, I think it's a projection that when the livestock, that thing is approved, over a period of time,
it's a agribusiness and livestock plan.
Yes, and you can see the steps are being taken towards that. I'm sure you are aware. The agro-processing zone in Oyo State, that's part of it. That is African Development Bank coming with the government and the private sector to do that, because I had conversation with one of the team in African Development Bank. So it's steps in the right direction. Implementation is another thing. They're working towards it. They're talking. I said the last time I came, we don't want to, it's not about complaining. It's about collaborating, coming together, and telling the government, let's work together to solve this.
And at the bottom of this is the cotton farmers.
Yes.
We know that insecurity is scaring farmers away from the farms now. Yes. So if we see that in basic crops, edibles, then I wonder what's going on, with cotton farming.
It's a general situation and a general problem that we have, insecurity. The good side of it, I'm not sure if that's the right word, is that, we farm in the 6 geopolitical zones. There's some side that, they have the height of the insecurity. I'm not sure if the right word is a no-go area, but they're struggling. There's some other places that the insecurity is not as bad. As you said, that the difference between the other crops and the cotton farm is that the insecurity is not affecting so much in some areas, and the way we're growing it and the way the cluster is put together, there's some areas that are protected from insecurity, like places like Ogun State and some other places in the north. We've been able to work around it, but we're still having that discussion with the government. I know that they're having that discussion on how they can stop the insecurity and get the farmers going back to the farm to work. It's a big problem, but I know they're working towards it.
So please help us to understand the value chain from cotton to textile to the gate. Help us to connect it, and help us to see how developed, perhaps, because we do have the weakness of value addition to our crops, our raw materials, not just in Nigeria, on the continent, unfortunately. So help us to understand that cycle.
Thank you. That's my area of specialty. You saw me that I smiled. I love that, the entire value chain, the backward integration. Way you can have an independent economy without having a back-to-back, when it comes to production, processing and all that, and you can only get value when you take your produce and you process. That's where you can get value. So the cotton value chain starts not with the cotton, not with planting, it starts with the seed. So for me, the 3 stages: the seed, the soil, agronomic practices, you harvest, then you start processing. So to have control of this value chain, you have to start with your seed. So you have the right seed, you have the right soil. In between, this training should be part of it, where the farmers are properly trained on how to plant. You talked about the yield. The lot of things that come together, to have the kind of result that you desire. It doesn't just happen because we have farmers that are going to the field to go and farm. No, it goes beyond that. A lot of things comes together, that makes it effective. So training, the right agronomic practices, soil tests, soil analysis. So in that value chain, you have the science as well, where you work with research, So when that is done, you have planting, extension services, where they help the farmers and support the farmers in how to plant, what to plant, how to check as it's growing. Then you come to where it's properly grown. You have good yield because you have the right seed, you have the right soil. There's a lot of things that goes into getting the right soil, so we're not going to go too much into that. So you have, let's say, all things being equal, you have the right seed, you have the right soil, good practices in planting and everything. Your harvest is done properly, you have your harvest. Your harvest, after harvesting, you take to the ginnery, which is your first stage of processing. Then when you get there, that's when you now separate your lint and the seed. So when you separate your lint and the seed, that's where the journey starts. So you have some product from your lint, you have some product from your seed. So that's where you can decide, where do you want to start selling, or do you want to keep processing? So the value chain goes on and on. So from your lint and your seed, you have different products before you now get to the one that we talk about all the time, the cloth. No, you have a lot that happens, different stuff that happens. Remember, when we, under the CNN program, I remember that, giving the farmers money to farm for them to produce the note, cotton for the Naira note. So that's part of it. So you have the sanitary towel and all that, the Pampers business, the stuffing, you have the waste, the lint, and the seed, the oil and everything, before you now get to your actual textile. In the textile, you have the thread that they use in sewing, the yarn and all that. The way you get there, you have your towels, you have your bed sheets, you have your denim, you have your T-shirt before you start getting to all the Ankara, you have the fishnet, you have so many products. So you can imagine what we're losing. You can imagine how many factories that I've talked about. You can imagine the number of employment and empowerment that I've talked about when we go into the full vertical chain. And even the ones that it's not really being talked about properly, where we talked about the R&D. So it's connecting the entire chain together, not each and everyone working in silos. That's where you can have a complete and an awesome industry. Even when you get to textile, even inside textile, there's diversification of economy in textile itself. But that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, so do you see this plan, this latest plan, at least even if it's half, 60, 70% of these potentials and these different parts that you're talking about, do you see bringing it out and making it a reality?
I'm seeing it. You see, the way we talk about it and the way people look at it, it looks like it's really difficult. It's a long, it's not rocket science. It's been done before. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're just going to build on what has been done. We have the structure for the cotton already. As I said earlier, that textile is an economy on its own. Nigeria can actually, this sector can uphold the Nigerian economy. It is that strong. The textile, the garment. When you look at statistics, look at how much different countries are making from the garment, from the textile, before you now come to cotton, right? So revamping the sector is for the benefit of Nigeria. It can be done. We have the structure for, what's it called, for cotton already. We only need to build on it. There has to be a lot of training. That's why Nigeria have good relationship with Brazil now. On our side, in the private side, we've been working a lot. I've been working a lot with the Brazil economy. You know, I'm working right now for them to come to Nigeria and start training the farmers. You know, we have to do a lot of training. You talked about the statistics. Right now, I think the last, from what I checked, I think the last is about 30,000 metric tons that we did last, which has really gone down. During the Ankobora program, we went to about 150, 200,000 metric tons. Right, but our yield wasn't that good. But when we put in the training, soil analysis, soil test, the right seed, that start increasing our yield. So we now have to start going into quality before quantity. We've been doing a lot of quantity, but it's good. That gives us the structure that we can start building on. Then we now move into our textile. Once we get the cotton right, all those things, we start getting them right. Then we get to the textile, we decide to diversify into polyester and some other stuff, silk and all that, you know. But it can be done. It's not difficult. We just have to really optimize what we have and start moving from there.
All right. Well, we hope, I hear you, research, training. These are two things that stand out from what you said. Thank you so much. National Coordinator of the Nigeria Cotton Society and also Managing Director, House of Dockers Integrated Services, Ms. Ololade Adenoye. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll jump on another conversation. Please stay with us.